Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Real Estate, hosted by yours truly. My name is Ray, a bearded man of real estate. And, you're getting a little bit of feedback from old Scap. Scap, you got to mute yourself right there. Someone mute Scap for me. This is episode 311 of This Week in Real Estate. That's crazy, guys. 311. We're getting started a little bit later than normal because we have storms in the area. And I was telling Clubhouse before we got started today that usually I hear the siren, and that's my cue to like, all right, I need to start hitting all the buttons and go live. And so I was just sitting here doing some stuff and didn't hear the siren because the storms are so bad, like schools are letting out early. Now, I have to also preface that we've gotten like a sprinkling of rain. Storms are so bad, we're canceling everything. We've gotten a sprinkling of rain so far, so we'll see what happens. We've got a lot to talk about today. The show title is End is Near, Mortgage Delinquency Panic. We're going to be going over that today. Are 6 million Americans behind on their mortgage, and is that a bad thing? We'll talk about it. We have a ton of real estate news after the clear cooperation fell out last week. MLSs are also kind of panicky. Everybody's a little bit panicky. But the good news is we're here. If you're joining us on YouTube, you can comment, and I can display your comment. Just like Scap, he was first up today. He said, what's worth appraisals? Let's go already. Okay. You said that at 12 o'clock. Okay. Olivier said, so Americans can no longer pay their mortgage? Today's a big day for U.S. and Canada. It's actually not. It's actually a big day for U.S. and everyone else as the April 2nd tariffs, reciprocal tariffs take place. Reciprocal tariffs mean if you tariff us 10%, we tariff you 10%. But from what I hear, developed nations are the ones that are getting the matched tariffs. In places that still need help or still need to be developed, it's not an exact match. It's just an increase in tariff, but we're still letting them tariff us more. So pretty good. We'll see what happens. So far, not a negative impact on the market today. But usually that's because all the news is built in beforehand. Let's see. I got a bunch of comments over on the YouTubes. What's up, guys? Matt Lamar said, executive order, no mortgages. Yes. We do have 2 executive orders we're going to talk about today that affect Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and that whole mortgage situation. Oh, look. See? Matt got sent a referral by Scap. How about that? Despite their love-hate relationship, they still refer each other business and then talk about it on the show. So I appreciate you guys being here. If you are in Clubhouse, you can raise your hand and you can actually add your voice to the show. So there's moderators there that'll make sure that you're not just a fake account, and that'll bring you up to chat on the show. And at any time you just blurt out and boom, you're on the podcast. So be careful. You can also comment over on LinkedIn, just like Matt Lamar said. He said Scap is the greatest appraiser ever. Now they're really buttering each other up. See, that's what happens. You give Matt a little bit of money and then boom.
I mean, I think that's how we all work.
Bro needs gas for his Porsche.
Matt can finally pay for golf lessons.
That's right.
Maybe get that new putter.
100%.
That's funny. All right. Well, without further delay, let's jump into this. We've got, this is interesting to me. The MLSs scramble to assess and implement the new NAR MLS policy. I mean, yeah, but are they really going to have to make that many changes? That realtor Rob, I see you over there on Instagram with the 2 tornado emojis. Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, MLS scramble to assess and implement NAR's new MLS policy. This is from the Clear Cooperation thing that we talked about last week. That just a short overview of that, if I can summarize. It now gives people 2 options. You can either list your home and keep your home off of the market altogether and do a brokerage exclusive, allowing the brokerage to market within themselves and to no one else. And then as that agent starts to market the home publicly, then it has to be listed on the MLS within 24 hours. Or there's a new a delayed marketing category where you can input the home into the MLS as soon as you start to talk publicly about the home outside of your brokerage. And a one-to-one conversation won't trigger this. But as soon as you start to maybe post about it on Facebook, then you have 24 hours to get into the MLS, but you can list it only in the MLS. You don't have to put it on Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia. Is Trulia still out there? Yeah, anyway, you don't have to put it on all those third-party sites. So that is a delayed marketing category. So there's two new things now that you can do. The brokerage exclusive was previous, but the it's now official, and the newest part of that is the MLS exclusive. That's what they should call it. It's an MLS exclusive. It doesn't go anywhere else but the MLS. We kind of jokingly last week called it an anti-Zillow policy. So large multiple listing services across the country are scrambling to figure out how they will implement a new MLS policy from the National Association of Realtors. Did y'all get emails from your MLS this week? Because we did. In the wake of NAR's decision earlier this week to keep clear cooperation policy intact, a new policy offering delayed marketing exempt listings category, several realtor-affiliated MLSs appear optimistic about NAR's choice. Yeah, because anytime you're using the MLS instead of a third-party source or allowing other competition into the market, the MLSs are going to be like, yeah, this is good. In January, a California regional MLS CEO, Art Carter, wrote an op-ed in which he emphatically stated that CRMLS will not support nor participate in an agreement, plan, or scheme to hide available properties that are for sale from potential buyers who choose not to hire a real estate agent. That's an interesting take. Carter pointed out that the rules governing Internet Data Exchange, the IDX policy, which is how listings appear virtually in all portals, were established as part of the settlement agreement reached between NAR and the Department of Justice, which emphasized the importance of ensuring customers have the same access and knowledge available to property listings for subscribing agents in the MLS. I think this is an interesting take. This is some of the concerns about how the new policy's potential repercussions could end us back into hot water. Think about it. You list a property, you put it on Zillow, or you list a property, you put it in the MLS, you don't allow it to go to Zillow or any of the third-party sites. Now, someone else who does not want to use a real estate agent, now they can't purchase the home. Is this discriminatory? Because now all these buyers have to have an agreement with their agent, and they have to have an agreement with their agent, and that agent has to determine in that agreement what they would be paid. And so now you could say, well, people that can't afford an agent, they don't have access to the same properties that people that can't afford an agent have. Is this discriminatory? I feel like it's a you can't win for losing scenario. Requests made by market influencing brokers to exclude their properties from IDX feeds, thereby withholding them from unrepresented buyers, could expose CRMLS to potential litigation from consumers, advocacy groups, and plaintiffs. A buyer who decides not to pay the cost or fees associated with hiring a buyer's agent is entitled to full and fair access to every property available for sale across the same platforms and websites that are accessible to represented buyers. Do y'all agree with that? Drop it in the comments, or if you're in Clubhouse, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. A buyer who decides not to pay the cost or fees associated with hiring a buyer's agent, should they be entitled to the same properties that a represented buyer has? On one hand, we're saying sellers should have the right to market their home however they want. On the other hand, we're saying that buyers should have access to all the available properties. But you can't have both. So who is correct?
Hey, Ray, the problem I have with it is that then the amount of work that falls on one agent can become tremendous.
What do you
compared to, well, I mean, you end up doing double the work. You end up doing double the paperwork, double the whatever.
Yeah.
Because that other person who's unrepresented, unless they're hiring an attorney who's going to do it, and the attorney's not going to show them the home. The attorney's not going to, get the inspector in there. The attorney's not going to do anything other than the paperwork. So really, it would end up falling on the listing agent to do 90% of the work for the entire transaction instead of just their client.
Okay. But couldn't we, as the listing agent, adjust compensation in the event of an unrepresented buyer?
Well, and I think they're doing that now. I think a lot of them are putting that right in their listing contracts now.
Yes, we are.
All right.
But I don't think that's necessarily a function of, should they have access to the same homes or not? Well, it would put an undue burden on the listing agent. I don't think that would be a reason.
I think they should have access to the same homes. I mean, why not?
Realtor _Malka _and_the_ BTS that she's on. I wanted to read it because I wanted to give you credit, but I love that she's on Instagram. She says, how does that even work? Because Zillow is a brokerage and owns Trulia. So what my understanding is, we won't be able to put the properties that are, I'm going to call it MLS exclusive, on our own IDX feeds either. So if you have a website that has all the available properties in MLS, my understanding is that this will not shoot out to any third-party sites, including a real estate agent's site. So yes, Zillow is a brokerage, but if you look at it like your own Realtor IDX site, then I think it would still be behind that MLS exclusive. If somebody knows, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the case. Thank you for joining over on Instagram. Matt, I saw that you were about to unmute. How do you feel about this? On one hand, sellers, we want them to be able to market the property how they want to market the property. On the other hand, people are like, well, it's discriminatory against buyers that are not represented who don't have access to those listings.
Yeah, I see both sides, not of the transaction, but for buyers at least, because I have had, in fact, my first buyer ever, I met at an open house for a $450,000 house, and they didn't get it. They lost out on a multiple offer situation in 2019 before things got too crazy. But after losing out, they called me and they were like, hey, so there's this other house we want to go see. They sent me the address and I pulled it up and I'm like, that's double the price. What? Like, what's going on here? Exactly. Like, what changed in the last week that made you double your budget? Because, that's never, ever happened to anyone else. So part of me thinks, if you have a pre-approval and even if you're cash and you've said, this is my budget, but your budget doesn't include compensating me, then we have a problem, obviously. Do I think those people should not have access though? I mean, I don't know, man. Things change so rapidly, I feel like. And if you're missing out on what could be a perfect house for you over, $50,000 or $100,000 of your stated budget, but all of a sudden you're willing to go up. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but all my lenders are like, we'll give them $1 million. And they're really like, our budget's 600. So I don't know. I don't know that I can take one side or the other on this, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to side with the sellers because it's their property. And for property rights, I want people to be able to do what they want to do with their property. So I tend to lean that way. It's not, what's up, Stuart Danger? I haven't seen you in a while. I have a hard time saying that a buyer, just because they are a buyer should have access to every property, when the seller may determine that no, they don't want all the buyers to have access to the property. And if that limits what the seller could get for their home or how much they could sell it for or whatever, that's the seller's decision. And so I tend to side with the property owner versus the buyer. But could it potentially open up lawsuits? Yeah, I think it definitely could open up some lawsuits.
Yeah, well, and at the end of the day, ultimately the buyer decides, or maybe their income and debt to income ratio decides what they can or cannot afford, or a bank will say, here's what you can do, or here's what we'll do with you.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I think the stat now is what, 40% of people own their home outright.
Yeah.
And the amount of equity out there is so enormous that, you know, I feel like that's just another term. It's just another condition of a deal anyway. And they've decided on that. And so, I don't know, as part of my buyer consultation, someone will tell me a budget, or they'll tell me I'm pre-approved for this much. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But like, what do you want to do ultimately at the end of the day? Like, because if the quote unquote perfect home doesn't fall into that budget, are you going to look in a different area, or are you going to go up on your budget? Like, what's more important to you, you know? So I kind of feel like that's always at the buyer's disposal anyway. So I don't know.
But if the buyer's not represented,
oh yeah,
there are going to be properties that they don't even see that could fit in their budget, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird part.
Art Carter, he said that CR MLS will not establish a private listing network, that it's only accessible to CR MLS subscribers, because, quote, such a system would clearly disadvantage consumers who choose not to work with a real estate agent, as they would have no access to listing inventory. However, MRED, that's another MLS, they've opted to create such a network, but Carter emphasized the litigation risk of such a move. Carter wrote, the only way for these buyers to view available properties for sale would be to hire a CR MLS subscriber real estate agent. Aren't we? I mean, okay, let's play devil's advocate against Art. What's the purpose of the MLS? Is it to have a software input where everyone inputs a listing in the MLS a certain way, so it is then fed to various IDXs and stuff around the country? Because if that's the only purpose and there's no exclusionary aspect, then why don't we just have a national listing of properties and get rid of all the MLSs altogether? Which I know is another topic. Brett, I saw you raise your hand and come up. Did you want to talk about the exclusion? I just wanted to get to you if you were coming up for that.
Oh no, I just didn't want to feel left out.
You just wanted to come on stage to hang. All right, that's fine.
I might have something to say later. I don't know.
No, you're here. I'm here for it. All right. The case of an MLS making rules that enforce consumers to use a real estate agent to seek properties that are for sale will be extensively litigated, and implementing such a policy could expose CR MLS to significant antitrust liability. I mean, back in the day, weren't they just listed in books and only the real estate agents had access to the books? Were there lawsuits about that back then? I don't think there were. I think it was just kind of how it was.
Well, you had to work with a real estate agent, because that's where the books were, and everybody walked through the front door and said, I need to see the book.
Yeah.
And you know, either they would take a book off the counter and go look at it, or you'd actually sit down with them and say, okay, well, what price point are you looking at? It depended on, you know, but they relied 100% on the agent. Any agent.
Lisa C. Blumgren says yes. Are you saying yes on Instagram to that there were lawsuits about that back then? I don't know. I'm truly ignorant of it. I know when I started real estate back in the day in 2007, we weren't that far removed from the book. So I remember older agents in our marketplace basically saying, I'm done with this, because once this information's out there, the need for a real estate agent's gone and we're just going to retire early. I mean, there were a lot of agents that were saying that kind of stuff. And I mean, there's more real estate agents than ever right now. So obviously that didn't happen. No lawsuits that she knows of. Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry. Sometimes there's a delay over on Instagram, so I wasn't sure what you were saying yes to. My bad. As the announcement is still fresh, there's still many details and scenarios that need to be evaluated. Aguilar said in a statement. Nicole Aguilar is the spokesperson for CR MLS. We'll be working closely with leadership to explore options. Cindy Miller, the COO of North Texas Real Estate Information Systems, NTREIS, which has 53,000 subscribers, told Inman that MLSs should offer buyers, not just sellers, a transparent marketplace. In my personal opinion, we need to ensure a transparent marketplace for potential purchasers and keep in mind that whenever adopting policies, Miller said in the state, keep that in mind whenever adopting policies. MLS rules not only govern our participants can do by participating, they've agreed to a cooperative environment. That environment continues to provide the broadest marketplace for both buyers and sellers. So the deadline to implement is September 30th. I guess a lot of this is going to be worked out. I mean, surely they would have thought about a lot of this stuff in the clear cooperations conversation that NAR was having, right? I mean, hopefully they know. But there are a lot of people that are not huge fans of the private marketplace that run these MLSs. So, but there's also a lot of MLSs that are like, yes, this keeps us in place. We're good. It seems to be more of a compromise. I thought it was kind of a compromise between big brokerages and smaller brokerages with the clear cooperation ruling, but it actually seems like it's turning out to be more of a compromise between brokerages and MLSs, which is an interesting twist. All right. That's where we are. We'll keep updating as the news continues to break. We'll fix it. We also had this news story. Rocket companies to acquire Mr. Cooper in $9.4 billion mega deal through stock. So if your mortgage was hanging with Mr. Cooper, it is now switching over to Rocket companies. This move is set to create a lending and servicing giant that will oversee more than 2.1 trillion in loan volume and serve nearly 10 million clients, roughly 1 in every 6 U.S. mortgages. All right, so we have Redfin or Rocket that bought Redfin, last week, 2 weeks ago. Huge news. So now Rocket, the mortgage giant, owns Redfin, the real estate agent company giant. I'm going to say giant in air quotes. And now they're buying a mortgage servicer. So this is vertical integration, right? This is when you're buying up parts of the chain that are above you and below you so that you can have a full vertical integration from beginning to end. My question is, when are they going to buy a builder? I feel like that's next. So then you're controlling the inventory, or a developer. You're controlling the land inventory, the build. Then you have the agent representing the property, and then the buyer comes and gets the loan, and you provide the loan, and then they close the deal and you service the loan. That is an all-in-one. So I feel like building and developing is next for them. Mr. Cooper has been on a journey to transform the homeownership experience. We've built the most advanced servicing platform in the mortgage industry. By combining Mr. Cooper and Rocket, we will form the strongest mortgage company in the industry, offering end-to-end homeownership experience backed by lending technology and grounded in customer care. One of my questions is, what are they going to let slip so that they can provide the deal? Will they provide a deal at all 3 stages, the real estate agent level, the mortgage level, and the mortgage servicing level? Or will they make the most money from the servicing, so they will cut the lender and cut the realtor in order to provide savings for the consumer so that they could get more and service more? in a full marketplace, normally we as real estate agents have to compete with other companies and other real estate agents that make money. That all changed when the whole iBuying thing started. And then you had these companies that were losing massive amounts of money that seemingly didn't have to make money in order to exist. And then they now don't exist anymore, really, except for a couple, but most of them are out of business because it's not a sustainable model. If you have companies, and we talked about Redfin being one of these companies for years, where it wasn't a requirement in which they made money in the marketplace because they were getting money from other avenues, then you potentially have a competitor that you're trying to compete with as a real estate agent, but that company doesn't have to make money. So they can basically go to zero, or what the iBuyers were doing, basically paying the consumer to use them so that they can get the consumer on the back end. So I'm curious if they're going to try to create a deal at all three levels, because then I think the participation in the marketplace remains fairly fair, or if they're going to cut down on two huge so that they can get all the business and service them at the third, or maybe it's at an extremely cheap servicing model and then they give a good deal on the purchase with the real estate agents, which that kind of seems, I think they're going to try to do the deal on the purchase because they bought Redfin. You know, if they were trying to get a higher end clientele, or, you know, a real estate agent that knows how to negotiate and charge a higher fee because they provide better service, I don't think they would have bought Redfin, because Redfin is known as like a deal type brokerage. So it seems like they will cut on the deal for the real estate agent and then maybe make money on the mortgage side. That seems to be the huge focus, but we'll see. Rocket Companies buys Mr. Cooper. They own Redfin. And we'll see where they start to hack. Back on NAR, agents grow more discontented. Agents grow more discontented with their profession and with NAR. So 2024 was one of the hardest years for real estate agents in recent history. And coming off of that year, Redfin does an annual report. We'll look at the full report in just a minute. It came out Wednesday, and they survey 500 non-real estate, they survey 500 non-Redfin agents who did at least one deal last year. So, I mean, if the numbers if the numbers bear out, it's like 70% of those 500 only did one deal. The report concludes that real estate as a profession in 2024 had a net promoter score, which is a measure of satisfaction, of -29. That's the worst score since 2019, when Redfin began doing this particular survey. Net promoter score shows fewer agents recommend real estate as a career. Maybe they're just trying to exclude their competition there. The difference between the percent of agents who would recommend being an agent to others, that's pretty funny. In 2023, it was -24. In 2024, it was -29. Of the things that agents mentioned not liking about their profession, unpredictability of income took plurality of responses, with 42.6% of agents citing it as a major issue. Other challenges agents reported not liking about real estate include difficulty of finding customers and dealing with unprofessional agents and the absolute amount of income. What are some others on here? Let's look at the full report. So this is Redfin's Adapting to Change Industry Survey. Let's go to the numbers. What was your approximate income in the last 12 months? There's three numbers on this chart. The bright red is 2021. What's that, like an orange color, is 2023. And the salmon color is 2024. They could have chosen like red, green, blue. I know it wouldn't have been as Redfin branded, but it would have been a lot easier chart to read. Okay. Is that just me? Are these, this is one of those moments where I'm like, maybe I am seeing different colors than other people. Have you ever had this thought? Like, how do you know the color orange that you see is the color orange? How do you know that your color orange is not my color blue? You don't. You have no idea how my brain is interpreting color. I was just from a young age told that this color is orange when it could look like you're blue. All right, sorry. It's all a simulation. All right, what was your approximate income in the last 12 months? In 2021, less than 50K was 50%, 51% was less than 50K, but only 42% in 2024. In let's go more than 200K. 11% of agents in 2024 said they made more than 200K. 8% in 2023, and in 2021, 10%. So there's actually more agents. Actually, hang on. There are agents reporting more income, less than 500 or less than 50K. 50 to 100K is 28%. 100K to 200K is 19%. And then 200K is 11%. Each one of those numbers in 2024 is higher than the previous years. Olivier said, yes, we are living in the Matrix. We are. Conspiracy. Oh, I'm sorry, Scap. I missed this comment. Back on the rocket story, Scap had a good comment here. He said they own their own appraisal management company. I'm sure they will look to buy more. Bold strategy, Cotton. All right, 200K gross or net. Where does it say that? It says income, so I'm not sure. Yeah, it just says income.
200K in commission is not that high for an agent that does it full time. If it's gross, I mean, it's not that much. It's like 125 net, maybe even 100 net.
Now, you know, these are American dollars, though, Olivia.
Yeah. But I mean, us Canadians, we all make over 300,000-400,000 Canadian dollars.
That's right. No, I think it's probably their GCI. They probably asked what their reported GCI was, but it said income. What was your income? It doesn't say GCI. So I'm not sure. We'll see if it says it at the bottom. It might. Agents were also more likely to close more deals, with 72.2% closing more than 5+ deals. Oh, well, their survey had a higher number. 72.2% closing more than 5+ deals in 2024. That's up from 63% in 2023. How many deals did you close? There it is. Less than 5 in, did they change the color? They did change the color. See, bad charting, guys. If you start with a color for a particular year and you have multiple charts, you need to retain that color throughout the page, unless you're trying to highlight a particular number or stat. But this is not how you make charts. You don't take a chart like this and then use the same colors, but it's different years. No, this is incorrect. For all of you web developers out there, it's not correct. All right. Anyway, 2024 now, if you're watching is the bright red one. Now that was 2021. You would be correct. Now it's 2024. 2023 is this light peach tone. So results of the 2024 agent survey versus 2023. How many sales did you close? Less than 5% was 27% of people. 5 to 9 was 27% of people. 10 to 19 was 30% of people. And 20 or more was 15%. So you can see where you guys fall. The biggest difference was in 2023, less than 5 was 37% of agents. Share of agents was less than 3 years of experience. Now they have the same color for both years. Okay. This bright red, the first column is 2021. And the second bar is 2024. So share of agents with less than 3 years of experience, 17% in 2024, 28% in 2021. Now, I feel like with such a small sample size, that could be luck of the draw, but also potentially could mean that a lot of real estate agents that were real estate agents are no longer real estate agents. Lisa C. Blumgren, do you record this show for a podcast or YouTube channel? Yes, we are actually live right now on YouTube. You can find it by typing "This Week in Real Estate," and then you can type my name, Ray, or Ray Ellen. We are also live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch. What am I leaving out? Instagram, which you're on. And yeah, I guess that's it now. And YouTube. So it's put out there. And then in about 2 hours, we take the audio, process the audio, and upload it to whatever your favorite podcatcher is. So it goes out much like whenever you list a property, it's syndicated to all these IDX feeds. If you allow it to be now, whenever we upload the podcast, it goes out to whatever your favorite podcatcher is. So we're on Spotify and Amazon and iTunes and all that jazz. So thank you. All right. End of ad. Did you work other jobs in the past 12 months to supplement your income as an agent? Drop in the chat if you worked other jobs. 34%, 35.4% said yes. 64.6% said no. Of those that worked other jobs, this is interesting. The highest number of people that worked other jobs were those making $1 to $50K in income from real estate. And of course, the highest number of people that did not work another job were making $200 to $500K. Does working another job include like starting a business or something? I wonder if they changed the question, did you work other jobs? And then they had another question, did you start other businesses? I wonder if this 200 to 500K number would change. I wonder how many of those 97.8% would be like, oh yeah, I did buy this business, or I did, I became a contractor, or also got my lender license and opened up a title company or a mortgage company or whatever. I wonder if that number would change. Choosing a brokerage. Nearly 1 in 7, 15% agents are planning to switch brokerages in the next 12 months. And almost that many, 13.4%, did switch in the past 12 months. Share of agents switching brokerages, no, 86.6%. When choosing a brokerage to work for, what do you care about? Commission splits was 78%. Brokerage brand and reputation were right up there at 55. Brokerage support and training, 54. Culture, 51. Technology, 47. Internet presence, 46. Marketing support, 44. Administrative support, 42. Leads, 35. Physical office, 23. That number's a low. 15% of people said that was not at all important, or 31% said not very important. Profit sharing, 15.2%. Stock options, 7.8%. There you go. In general, what do you prefer about, what would you prefer that your brokerage do? There's 2 options here. Invest more in tech, training, and marketing, even if that makes my commission split and desk fees slightly worse. 45.2% said that. Invest less in tech, training, marketing in order to make my commission split slightly and desk fees slightly better. 54%, 54.8. So roughly 55% of people were like, no. Just give me more money. Don't invest in any tech or anything. Okay, we've already talked about the net promoter score. Real estate as a career. It's at negative 29 again. What do you dislike about being a real estate agent? All right, what do you guys dislike about being a real estate agent? What is it? What's the number one thing that you're like, I love showing houses to my friends, and I love going and listing their property, or maybe you hate showing houses. What is it? What is the worst part? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear it. The number one was unpredictability of income. That was the major issue. 42.6% said it was a major issue. 34.2% said it was or 42.6 and 34.2 said it was a minor issue. Difficulty finding customers. 37.8% said that. Dealing with other agents who are rude or unprofessionals. 27.8. A minor issue. That's interesting. 49% of people said that was a minor issue. Absolute amount of income after cost. Only 22% said that was a major issue. 40% said it was a minor issue. Difficulty closing deals in a volatile market. 20% said that. Always being on call. 17%. Unreasonable or abusive customers. 12%. Lone wolf. Lack of training and support structure. 11%. Working evenings and weekends. Only 10% of people thought that was a issue. Lack of career growth. 7.8%. Yeah, I mean, I think there is plenty of career growth available. I mean, you make way more money. All right. What do you like about being an agent? Entrepreneurial experience, setting my own schedule, making my own decisions, helping people. That was 87%. Helping people whose lives are in transition, 76%. Relationships with customers, 73%. Love of real estate and houses, 61%. Ability to generate significant wealth, 60%. The art of the deal, that's a Trump book, 48%. Thrill of the hunt, 41%. All right. We can dig into some more of these later, but if you guys want to see the whole report, go to Redfin. Actually, you know what? It's probably easier if you go to Inman, because they link the report there. It's kind of hard to find just the report on the Redfin site, but it came out April 2nd. So maybe you could type April 2nd. The report is called Adapting to Change, Redfin's 2025 Industry Survey. All right, and we have an update. Alexander's fire back against Side in a counterclaim. And this is hard to believe. They have a counterclaim. Tollenor and Alexander are continuing their legal battle against Side Inc. They filed a counterclaim against the white label firm, alleging that it manufactured events surrounding the brothers' disassociation from Side, which ultimately resulted in the demise of their business. Are they saying it's all made up? Seizing upon statements the Alexanders allegedly made to media outlets, Side falsely claimed that the Alexanders had disassociated their real estate licenses from Side, triggering a manufactured event of default. Having manufactured the event of default, Side demanded payment of an accelerated balance of promissory note while depriving defendants of their ability to generate revenues necessary to make the payment. So basically they're saying, because you guys came out and publicly disowned us, saying that this bad stuff was happening, because y'all did that, now we can't make the money that you now are calling a loan saying we owe. So they're not saying that they didn't do what they are claiming to. Well, they're not saying that they didn't do what they have been alleged to do. Let's just say it. I'm trying to say it as YouTube appropriate as I can. Side responded with a motion to dismiss with prejudice on the counterclaim. All right. We'll see what happens. That's an interesting strategy. I mean, I guess they're trying to get out of the paying off the loan. But they're basically saying, because of Side's public comments saying they disassociated the real estate licenses from Side when they had not, then they couldn't make the money needed to pay back the loan in which Side called. Okay. Oh, I appear to be frozen over on Instagram. Now it's back. All right, good. All right, there's an update. What do you guys? Olivier says, does OnlyFans count as a side hustle? Oh, he's on the phone now. He can't even hear me. The non-recurrent paycheck is the hardest part of being a real estate agent, says Olivier. Lisa did say it's frozen. Is it unfrozen now, Lisa? Because I see myself moving over there, but I don't know if y'all can hear me or not. I'll type something. All right. Hillary said, I agree with Olivier that and therapy I'll need after dealing with a current client. Ooh. Yeah. I had this client one time. I guess I'm far enough away to talk about this. I had a client one time that would just talk for hours and hours and hours. And I've had clients that would talk for hours, and that's okay. You know, I can usually they'll pick up on a social cue like, hey, I really have to go to this next meeting or whatnot. This guy did not pick up on any social cues. And it started by him just talking a lot. And then it got to him being aggressive in his conversations with me. And then it got to him being just an outright total dirtbag, I guess you could say. Just yelling all the time on the phone for no reason. Dude was buying a new construction house, and I needed the money at the time. So I closed the deal. I did the deal. And then I basically deleted and blocked his number and put him in our CRM as a do not contact. By the way, guys, don't delete people out of your CRM. All of your CRMs should have the ability for you to put somebody on like a do not contact list or something like that. That's what you need to do with people that you want to disassociate with. Because if you delete them out of the CRM, they can just find your website and come right back into it. So pro tip, come up with a tag or something like that to remove people from view or that you don't want to work with anymore. But I remember that being a very difficult time because of course that one had an extension because they weren't quite finished because of some weather or whatever. So it definitely went a little longer than normal. And the dude was just irate all the time. And towards the end of the transaction, when I knew that legally he had no way out to get out of it and not pay me, we were kind of through with everything. And we were just waiting on it to close, waiting on the builder to finish some minor things. I straight up told him, I was like, are you aware of how you treat people? And he said, what do you mean? And so I told him, like, this is what has happened. And this is how you're treating me. And this is how you're treating the builder's representative. And you're doing all this. And that's not normal. I just wanted you to know that that's not normal. And it was nice for me to be able to say, but he was like, I'll take that under advisement. He did not. It just made him like go off even more. So now I'm at the place in my career where those people, I don't work with them. But at the time, man, I really needed it. It was bad. But yeah, working with bad customers. What was the number on that one? Over on the Redfin? Hang on, let me find it again. Lack of customer. No, that's the challenges. Let me find this. I can't remember the percentage, but that was on there. That's weird. They changed the order of the article since we clicked on it, and I clicked on it again and it just updated, and they've moved everything around. So I don't know. It's a long report. Anyway, there's quite a few people that didn't like dealing with those kind of customers. Living in Columbia, SC says, does blacklist or FOFF work for the tagging? Yeah. I mean, we have ours set to do not contact, which is different from the DNC. If somebody's just on the DNC, we put it, DNC or whatever, tag them and move them over there. But then we have a specific list of like do not contact people. And yeah, if I want to remember stories, sometimes I'll go and look at that list and be like, who's on this again? Oh yeah, I remember this couple. Oh, it's crazy. All right, let's talk about panic. Mortgage delinquency panic. Did you guys hear about this? I'm going to put up well, I actually made the thumbnail this time because it was such a, here's the thumbnail. I'll just display it. When I first saw it, I was like, this is weird. Here it is. Boom. It's me, for the audio listeners, me in front of a city that looks like the city was nuked. And then there's a post by Patrick Bet David that says 6.1 million Americans are behind on their mortgage, the highest in 20 plus years. Brace for impact. And then he has a chart that shows an increase. When was that? Around 2000. It's hard to see on the chart. But it looks like there was an increase. 2009, 10, 11, 12. During the last crash, there was an increase. And then the chart goes to today's numbers, and that number is higher on the chart than it was during the crash. So I saw this and thought, well, that's not what I'm experiencing in my marketplace. Because I remember back then, you would go show homes, and of the 7 homes you were showing a buyer, or 10 homes you were showing a buyer, let's go with 10 because it's easy math. Of the 10 homes we were showing buyers back then, 3 or 4 of them would be foreclosures. It was a lot. And now it's not like that. So maybe I'll find a foreclosure, but it's difficult to find some foreclosures. It's not easy for us. And so it didn't make sense to me when I first saw this chart, or this tweet. And it turns out that whole thing was false. So Broke Agent Media put this report together and said, mortgage delinquency panic. Here's why that viral post got it wrong. If you zoom in, I don't know if you guys can see this on the screen. This white part right here says Freddie Mac serious delinquency rates multifamily in the mid price. So his tweet says 6.1 million Americans are behind on their mortgage, the highest in 20 years. Brace for impact. And the chart he's displaying is a multifamily chart. It's not even single family. And we've been talking about what's happening in the multifamily. So, I mean, now that you know that, anyone that's been listening to the podcast, you guys are like, oh yeah, okay. We've been talking about multifamily. We know what's happening in multifamily. The latest mortgage delinquency data sparked social media frenzy this weekend with claims that homeowners are under serious financial stress. The conclusion stated with misleading chart featuring Freddie Mac's serious delinquency rates coupled with the words 6.1 million. We've already talked about that. Patrick Bet David hosted the PBD podcast. I don't know who this guy is, by the way. I have no idea who he is. Maybe he's listening. Hi, Pat. This was surely he'll post a mea culpa on this because it's bad. Housing Wire's lead analyst Logan Matashami was quick to highlight a detail that had been overlooked in PBD's original post showing delinquency rates for multifamily. So what's actually happening with homeowner delinquency rates? That's where Matashami's response on IG and X, along with his article on Housing Wire, cleared the air. Later, PBD edited his tweet. Look at this edit. So this edit is a shady edit. If you know anything about X, you know that sometimes whenever you enter, so you put a sentence and then you enter and then you put another sentence, X will show basically the first sentence on a lot of different posts, and sometimes will not show the second sentence. It'll just say ... So even how he edited it was shady. It's just shady. So like I said, I don't know Patrick Bet David, but after seeing this, I wouldn't trust him because he's deliberately trying to mislead someone. And this is exactly why we have the show and what we're against. So anyway, he's got 6.1 million behind on the mortgage. Enter the chart, enter actually, because you have to enter here to get down one space. And then you have to enter here to get down a second space. So enter. The chart is specific to multifamily delinquency. Why even display the chart? It's not even what you're talking about. All right, here's the reality. Homeowner delinquency rates are rising from record lows, but they're still below pre-pandy levels. Guys, please be careful where you get your news. We're still below pre-pandy levels. Now, what's significant about the pandy? Remember what happened? What happened with mortgages? Everyone was panicked. They wouldn't be able to make their mortgage. Do you remember? Forbearance prevented tons and tons and tons of people from foreclosing on their home or being foreclosed on. So there were a lot of people that just didn't make payments for a while. And we are still below those rates, the forbeared rate. So we are at a historic low of delinquency levels currently. The real story on homeowner delinquencies, Madashami broke down the latest numbers in the new article. The national delinquency rate sits at 3.53%. That's up 5 basis points in February and 19 basis points year over year. FHA loans account for 90% of the increase, despite making up less than 15% of active mortgages. Los Angeles wildfires drove a spike in delinquencies from 700 in January to 4,100 in February. Foreclosures and bankruptcies still not back to pre-pandy levels. All right. Misinformation spreads fast. Be careful, guys. Please let people know that is not real. And even, I posted too. I said, now do single family. So there you go. All right, we have a couple of kind of political news articles. I don't really get into the politics very often until we talk specifically about something that impacts housing. The HUD ends. Wait, you can't see this article. There it is. HUD ends FHA mortgages for illegal immigrants, should benefit Americans who play by the rules, quote unquote. The Department of Housing and Urban Development terminated some mortgages for illegal immigrants in an effort to ensure home loans do not go to those living in the U.S. illegally. Why is this important? Well, U.S. tax dollars go to pay to back up these loans. So I think most people would not want U.S. tax dollars going to help someone purchase a home who's not here illegally. That just doesn't make sense. HUD Secretary Scott Turner announced the move Wednesday after news of a joint effort with the Department of Homeland Security to focus on homeownership for Americans. Today, HUD terminated Biden's taxpayer-backed FHA mortgages for illegal immigrants. When was this even put in place? Today, HUD acted to protect the American dream of home ownership. Wasteful misappropriation of American tax dollars should be used for the benefit of the Americans. Roughly 9 million people live on subsidized housing across the country. During the Biden administration, tens of millions of dollars were spent on housing for migrants, including all expenses paid. I don't think people have a problem with legal migrants. I think it's illegal immigrants, which is the crux of the issue. There's another political thing that happened. GSEs were ordered to terminate special purpose credit programs. So the special purpose credit program, and those of you who are a lender, you may correct me if I'm wrong, but it was basically a special program that allowed somebody to get a conventional mortgage with some kind of discount override, some kind of help, I guess you could say. The directive was issued March 25th. Federal Housing Finance Agency, the FHFA, which is the conservator over Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Do y'all know what a conservatorship is? So this is my understanding of the conservatorship. Let's see. is that the one that's actually showing FHA delinquency or multifamily? Okay, yes, sorry. I didn't get to that. All right, let's talk conservatorship for a minute. And this is my understanding of it. If, let's say you had two teenagers that were a little out of control, not doing what they were supposed to be doing. But yet they had a bunch of money. A conservatorship is like an adult coming in and saying, hey guys, y'all can't be doing that anymore. You're just wasting all the funds. Here, this is how you spend the money. This is what you're supposed to do. And there's still entities independent from the adult, but the adult is making sure that what they're doing is working, profitable, and paying for themselves. That's the conservatorship. In the statement, getting rid of the GSEs, it says the GSE's current support for SPCPs is inappropriate for regulated entities in a conservatorship, meaning that if they want to be able to do the SPCPs in the future, they are going to have to get out of the conservatorship. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac must terminate the SPCs they support, SPCPs they support, though they still may comply with contractual provisions regarding prior written notice to lenders. All right, so this is an example of one. United Wholesale Mortgage has an SPCP that provides $5,000 towards homeowners' down payment, closing cost, and up to $1,000 towards a home warranty and appraisal cost. Bank of America has one called the Community Affordable Loan Solution, first-time home buyers that offers zero down payment, zero closing cost on mortgages. Guaranteed Rate offers one that's $8,000 in assistance to help borrowers overcome accessibility challenges. Wells Fargo is one that has specifically termed special purpose credit program designed to help minority owners who have a mortgage with the bank refinance their mortgage to a lower interest rate. So there is a lot of overlap currently with these special purpose programs to programs that already exist that aren't as specifically targeted. Some of you hearing this may be panic saying, oh my gosh, these special programs, that was a huge part of my business. It probably wasn't. Only 0.8% of people used one of these types of programs in 2023. I'm not sure what the 2024 numbers are, but it's still likely around or under 1%. So not very many people actually use these programs, but in some of these programs was the ability to give loans to some people due to an immutable characteristic. Okay. So due to something about them that they can't change or couldn't have changed, but that is because this thing about them is now what they get the loan for. Race is the most obvious. For instance, hey, Ray, you grew up in an underprivileged area, right? You don't have money to purchase this home yourself, but because you're white, we'll give you this SPCP. Okay. To a lot of you, that sounded terrible, but that's what it was for. Generally, didn't go to a white guy though. So if that kind of rubbed you the wrong way, then the other one should also rub you the wrong way. All things being equal, of two applicants, an applicant with a certain immutable characteristic would be favored with some of the SPCPs. Not all of them, but with some of them, either by gender, race, the things that we're not supposed to, the things that fair housing would say, no, you can't do that. That's basically what they were doing. But they were doing it to those that are supposedly underprivileged or whatnot. So I think the reason why these SPCPs were looked at is because of the pressure or because of the avenue that some people could then say, well, based on this immutable characteristic, we're going to give you the money for the house. Or based on this immutable characteristic, we're not going to give you money for the property. And I think that would probably rub some people the wrong way if you just take out what that immutable characteristic is and say, hey, you were born this way. So because you were born this way, you don't get the loan. That doesn't sound right. So there is a lot of overlap to existing programs that I think this 1% or less than 1% group would go to, such as an FHA loan. So I think a lot of them will go to FHA. There's still down payment assistance programs. There's still various grants. It's just not based on the criteria that some of the SPCPs were able to use. So I hope that clears it up. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I think most of the people that would have used one of these are now going to use an FHA loan or the first time homebuyer classes and program or a down payment assistance with ADDI or ADFA. So, well, that's what it is in Arkansas, but there's all kinds of down payment assistance programs around. Any questions or comments on that? I think we nailed it. All right. And why would people need help? Well, this is the reason why people would need help. Monthly housing payments hit an all-time high. The median monthly mortgage payment reached a record high, putting a lid on the pending home sales. The typical U.S. home buyer's monthly housing payment hit an all-time high of $2,807 during the 4 weeks ending March 23rd. That's up 53% from a year earlier. Now, okay. I know it's not a direct one-to-one relationship, but if you had the average prices going up 6%, the average payment is up 5.3%. That kind of makes sense. I mean, I feel like people reading that would say, well, prices have gone up, so payment would go up also. Right? Am I missing something there? High cost are putting a lid on home sales. Pending home sales are down 4.6% year over year. Buyers are cautious. They're worried about the economy, potential layoffs. They're wondering if mortgage rates will continue to come down later in the year. That's the biggest. I don't have anyone that I'm working with currently that's worried about the economy. They are worried about this, wondering if mortgage rates will come down later this year. That's the number one question I have. Are rates going to come down, or should we go ahead and buy? Number one question. Baby boomers dethrone millennials to reclaim their spot as top home buyers. I thought this was an interesting article. Millennials between the ages of 26 and 44 made up 29% of all property buyers in 2024. That figure represents a 9% plunge from millennials home buying the year before. Meanwhile, baby boomers, defined as people born between 1946 and 1964, clawed their way back to the top of the NAR chart, reclaiming their spot as the largest demographic of home buyers at 42%. Here it is. Gen Zers, 18 to 25, go guys, 3%. 3% of home buyers were Gen Zers. This is really advantageous to know how to frame your marketing messages. Look at the younger millennials, 26 to 34%, were only 12%. Older millennials, 35 to 44, were 17%. Gen Xers, 44 to 59 years old, were 24%. And younger boomers, 60 to 69, were 26%. Older boomers, 70 to 78, were 16%. The silent generation, 79 to 99, is 4%. So if you were going to craft marketing messages, you want to target boomers and Gen Xers, I guess. But then you could also target, if you add up younger millennials, older millennials, and Gen Zers, you're still not even close to what the baby boomers, Gen Xers target is. That's interesting. But I guess you could almost get to, you get to what, 32% if you add up Gen Zers, younger millennials, and older millennials. So targeted marketing to that group. And then I would say Gen Xers, younger boomers, and older boomers would be a huge, that's a huge target market. You could even split that up. Okay. We're almost done here. Big city comeback. Homebuyer competition is rising fastest in the Bay Area in New York. We have a couple of news stories that are specific to some areas I just wanted to highlight. Nearly 2 in 3 homes sell for less than the original price. That's an interesting stat. But you have a lot of people kind of going back to these big cities. And I think a lot of that is the call back to work where they have to come into the office now. For 3 years, they were able to work remote. And then companies are like, we're not really seeing the production we used to. A lot of people have the second and third job working remote for those two. And I think a lot of folks are being called back into the city. If you look, the Manhattan luxury real estate market sees the best first quarter in 6 years. Look at that skyline. That is such a skinny building. How does it stay up? It's crazy. Manhattan apartment sales jumped 29% in the first quarter of the same period a year ago as wealthy sought refuge from volatile stocks to buy real estate, according to new reports. There were 2,560 closed sales in the quarter, up from 1,988 a year ago. That's a big jump. Total value of the apartment sales increased even more, reaching $5.7 billion. That's up 56% over the same quarter. The strength has largely been driven by the high end of the market and luxury properties. Sales of apartments priced over $5 million soared by 49% compared with a year ago. Wow. The ultra high end, or properties priced at $20 million or more, had its best first quarter since 2019. Largely insulated by mortgage rate fluctuations and driven by portfolio diversification strategies, this highlights renewed confidence among luxury buyers and underscores the broader generational wealth underway, Compass said. And we have one more news story. This one's a better take. Redfin keeps doing these articles like there were less home sales in LA. Well, yeah, it's because it was on fire. Realtor.com, though, has this report that was recently released saying LA wildfires reshaped SoCal's housing market and home sales surged in enclaves untouched by the flames. Also seems obvious, but interesting that they are seeing a surge in that area despite the risk, the quote unquote climate risk. Located just northwest of Marina del Rey, Culver City, best known as hub TV film production, experienced a massive 77% jump in home sales compared with the same period a year ago. So basically you have the area that was impacted by the fires. Areas around that are now having a huge jump in sales. That seems normal and obvious, but I just think it's a better take than, fire-torn area doesn't sell well. No, Sherlock. I mean, that's...
Ray, did you see the latest numbers on that by chance?
Latest numbers on the fires?
Yeah, the Palisades. So 7,000 homes, I think it was, destroyed or impacted. You know how many permits they've issued?
How many?
4.
No way. They said that they were going to fast track.
No. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to say that this is in California.
You say California doesn't fast track anything.
Yeah. No, there's fast. 4 of them are really fast. It's only taken 2 months.
You are right. I see this now. Posted 6 days ago. That is crazy. The post has.
So, by the year 3100, everyone should be back on track, have their permits in place. I'm sure construction will be super cheap in, 1100 years. So good luck, California.
Los Angeles approves just 4 permits to rebuild in Pacific Palisades after nearly 7,000 homes burned in wildfires.
For reference, there have been 4 permits issued in my neighborhood in the last week, just for comparison's sake.
Lisa C. Blumgren says, Californians love California. Many Palisades folks went to Long Beach. Yeah, I've heard that too. That's
what I was going to say. A lot of them just don't rebuild. Like when we were there, the fires out in Alpine and Descanso, we were there 14 years after the last fire, and there were quite a few that were just vacant tracts of land that no one ever rebuilt on. They just moved out. See ya.
The first permit was issued by the city on March 5th, clearing the way for homeowners to fix up their wrecked properties in the star-studded Pacific Palisades neighborhood. I could see that, Terry. I could see people just taking the money and go into a less expensive market, taking the insurance money and running, selling off the lot. As of last week,
and a lot of them, they didn't have enough insurance, if any, and they couldn't come close to rebuilding what they had.
Wow. Among other measures, the city established a debris removal task force, clearing the way for rebuilding, opening a permitting center, and waived local discretionary review process in the name of speeding up the efforts. These were that was part of the executive orders. Now, what I find interesting, and this is some third-party info here, what I've heard from friends that are in or near the area is that they cannot go on their own property and clean up. This could be wrong, so please correct me in the comments if you know differently and source it. But what I'm being told by people that live in the area is that they were not allowed back on their property to like find any personal effects that may be on there and see what they could save or salvage, or maybe find some jewelry, or kind of pick through stuff and find it and then start cleaning it out. They couldn't do that on their own. They had to use a contractor provided by California. So I'm waiting to hear if that's still the issue, but that doesn't sound friendly.
Ray, we had that with the tornado, and it wasn't that we had to wait for a contractor, but they did send a structural engineer around everything to make sure that no one was going to get additionally hurt. So everyone had to wait for clearance from that structural engineer before we were allowed to go anywhere close to our properties.
That's
and
wild.
that, I think, took 3 days for that. Of course, it wasn't hot in a fire, but it was a tornado. But still, we had to wait.
That would not work here in Arkansas. As a matter of fact, March 31st marks the 2-year anniversary of the tornado that we had come through our city. And by the afternoon, all right, so it went through late in the day. By the next afternoon, so 24 hours later, there were massive amounts of crews and people, volunteers and stuff, removing debris, cutting down trees. There were people going through their house, collecting what they could and getting out. And it was a very fast effort to kind of get it to somewhat normal. It's not normal, of course, anytime you see, like this picture that I'm showing right now on the screen of, just the fires ravaged. It's not normal, but it is now workable. And within a week, I would say, a lot of the area, the trees were removed, the power lines were tied up, or power was restored. And it did not take very long at all to get it to a place where people could then figure out what to do with their property, call a contractor, call a builder, call real estate agents, call whoever they needed to call. They were actually doing work on it so quickly that the insurance companies were having to say, take pictures, because by the time the adjuster showed up, the trees had been removed and like all the debris was kind of stacked up. And the adjuster was like, well, okay, I see evidence of what happened, but I don't know what happened. So they were asking us to go take photos of it. And for several of our investors that have bought in the area, we took photos of the properties before anyone jumped out on it. But there were neighbors and people that jumped out, and this was an investor's house. And he was like trying to figure out a contractor to go do this because he's out of the area. But like I would send him pictures of the trees and down and all that kind of stuff. He was like, all right, how much would it cost? I'm like, I got a tree guy going over there. By the time the tree guy went there, the tree had already been chopped up by the neighbors. They were just helping. And I know it's a little different, like you said, Terry, because it's not smoldering fire. You obviously have to wait some, and there's some difference in how it's done. But letting the people clean up for people would have been so much faster, getting to a place where now they could, have fully cleared lots if they wanted them. But I guess the downside of that is not every lot gets fully cleared. There's still a couple of lots here and there that have, pieces of a house or a house on it now. But for the most part, the entire area has been rebuilt. So the trees look weird. But that'll look better now that everything's starting to bloom again. But that's crazy. Thanks for Thanks for sharing that with me, Matt. I had no idea that only 4 permits since the LA fires. It's nuts. All right, this is the last article of the day. Came out this morning. Mortgage rates and demand seem stuck in a holding pattern as markets wait tariff news. I just don't see the tariff news having a huge impact. We'll see what happens. But one of the things that struck me is all this talk about recession. We may be in a recession. If there was a serious threat of a recession, then when the Fed met, they would have lowered the rates. They didn't lower the rates, which means that they don't actually fear a recession. So I think the economy is way stronger than we think it is. And by doing a reciprocal tariff, basically what you charge, we charge, it allows more players to enter into the market simply by lowering their tariffs. They could have a 0 tariff from the US if they also had a 0 tariff. And I think that would be great for everyone. So we'll see what happens. There are already some countries lowering their tariffs, which is good for our economy. And then we're going to raise the tariff to match what they have left in a lot of cases. For the developed countries, the non-developed countries, we're still going to take it easy on them from what I see. But I just think the spin of tariffs is overplayed. And that's what's making people sit in a holding pattern. But eventually, just like everything else, there was a pandy. But just like everything else, there will be a time when someone says, you know what? I'm just tired of waiting. We need a bigger house. We've been needing a bigger house. We went through the pandy and the house that we're in. We still need a bigger house. So let's just go ahead and buy. Because if it's not this, it's going to be something else. And that's the nature of news. So I think a lot of people are going to turn and start to purchase this summer. So, and from what I'm seeing, we're already having a very good year so far. Living in Columbia, South Carolina, said a ton left to go to Texas and the Southeast areas from the Palisades. Yeah, from the fires. Hillary, what's up, Hillary? She said, but think of North Carolina and how no one was allowed in for weeks either. Yeah, that's true. Well, that's because the Feds got involved. Yeah. Lisa said exactly. They are ready. It's the nature of real estate. People are going to be buying, y'all. I'm not too worried about it. We'll see what happens, but keep your head up. Keep serving your clients. I think you're going to be okay. Y'all find me on Instagram. I'm Razorback. That's RAYZORBACK. And happy April 2nd. Hopefully none of you are fooled. I have to say, just a side note, as someone that's looking for news articles, April Fool's is the worst day because I wind up reading this article. I'm like, this is crazy. And yeah, it was an April Fool's joke that wasn't very funny. It was just, it was annoying. So I picked through all the articles and made sure I think everything we covered was not April Fool's. So thanks everybody for joining us. I'll see y'all next week.